Ooh, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Pay attention, Mr.
Are you
McCall.
paying attention?
You're on duty.
See things, is he? Yes, he's live.
Here we are.
You only wake up when we go live, don't you?
I think he's going to fall asleep again shortly as well.
Poor doggy. He's had a hard day.
Well, it is that time again. So we shall have a little slurp, perhaps.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Here we are. Let's pour a glass.
It's a sort of short glass bit. Thank you very much indeed.
There we go.
Good evening. Anybody going to join us this evening? Who knows? Who knows?
It's kind of rainy outside. It's all about the Rhône. It's lovely and warming. Surely, what's better to do?
It's lovely.
So it is. Hi, Claire. Hi, Luke. Hi, Simon. It's Thursday.
It's 7 o'clock.
So we all know what that means.
Finn is bored
already. Bless him. Yeah, lovely to see you back. Thank you for joining. Bang on 7. It's so good that everyone's so punctual. There must be very little to do in our lives these days.
Oh, funny that.
Still, I can't believe this. We looked at some of our videos back in April and it said, oh, I wonder what will be happening in 3 weeks' time.
I know. Here's the question, actually. We were wondering whether we should start them earlier now that we've all got used to being at home for so long. I don't know. We might put that question out to you, actually. Should they start earlier or maybe later? Not later, please.
Not later. Everyone needs time to prep their canapes, obviously. I hope that some of you have managed to get a bit of foodie accompaniments together for this. Finn does say hello. Finn, pay attention. Come on, good boy.
Okay, let's crack on then. So good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. It's lovely to see you all, or you can see us. We can't see you, but please do keep sending your messages through. We want to hear from you.
Hi, Kerry and Martin.
And what are we talking about this evening?
Rhône. Indeed.
For all those who can roll their R's. Anybody who can't, don't drink it.
No, rubbish. It helps.
So what have we been up to? The weather's pretty awful. It's getting dark.
We've all been hunkering down a little bit.
The grapes are in.
Grapes are in. Harvest is complete.
In Europe, the grapes are pretty much complete. Even in England, I think England and Wales, who knows about Scotland, but England and Wales were picking at least 2 weeks ago, possibly earlier, which is really early for this country. And it's all down to the fantastic weather we've had and a sort of elongated summer, which went through September. I mean, it's all changed now. But they've got the grapes in and it's looking really, really good.
Well, there's certainly...
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, young
approval
man.
from Finn. They'll certainly have wanted to get their grapes in before it's been started raining because that rain on the ground, which is sucked up through the roots of the vines, will only dilute the fruit.
Dilutes everything.
Hurry. Get those grapes in.
It's interesting. Whenever I ask the question, what do you need to make wine? And people go, water. I'm like, ooh, dilutes. Yes, you need a little bit of rain, but you don't necessarily need water. That just dilutes.
Quite right. So first of all,
let's have a little drinky.
So we are definitely going to start with the Georges Dariot Côte de Rhône Village, one with the red capsule. This is a difficult light to see.
The one with the red capsule.
Well, keep it simple. We've got a glass. Has everyone else got a glass?
I hope so.
Definitely a time to say
cheers.
Cheers, Finn.
Cheers. And it's kind of interesting to see how many glasses we've actually broken over the last 6 months. Quite a lot. But we have got some ISOs now.
So this is the official tasting glass.
Snorting glass it is.
And also they're slightly less breakable than everything else I've managed to break over the past few months. So
actually, just on that point,
go on.
Anybody who doesn't know, it doesn't really matter what sort of vessel you're using, but you should always pour to the widest point of the glass and no further.
Remember
and
that.
The reason for that is that you want a maximum amount of air to get to the wine. So the largest sort of surface area as you can possibly get. So these are only to there. I mean, obviously, when nobody's looking, Jude's up to there, but we'll say no more about that.
Outrageous.
But any vessel, just pour to the optimum point of the surface area.
Quite right. And then you can give it a good swirl without it spilling over the edge and onto your lovely white tablecloth.
Does everybody know that you should swill your glass in the same direction as the hemisphere that you're in? And when I say that, for example, if you go upstairs and you run the bath and you run the water down, then in the northern hemisphere, it swills clockwise. So the rumor is that we should all be swilling clockwise,
which is a little bit more
awkward. Very tricky, and not for when you've got a white carpet.
No, I think I just kind of embrace my, inner Aussie, which doesn't exist, and go anti-clockwise because it's just easier.
Yeah.
It still does the same job.
Anyway, a little bit of useless trivia there for you to think about.
So we thought for the next couple of tastings, we wanted to go a little bit back to basics. And one particular area, the Rhône, which obviously we're talking about this evening, we often get people come up to us and when you're trying to ascertain what sort of wine they really enjoy, it's quite difficult sometimes to come up with an answer when you're put on the spot. But often we get the words Châteauneuf du Pape thrown out at us.
Yeah.
So we know the Rhône is popular, but I'm not sure that many people know why they like it. Just that they remember the name Châteauneuf du Pape.
No, and I think the problem with the road itself is it's actually quite complicated, and for us it's quite frustrating because that restricts our the choice of wines that we offer. So we have recently introduced a couple of Châteauneuf du Pape, one red and one white. And if you pop onto the website at hannibalbrown.com, you'll pick them up. They're called Chateau Fortier. Just put in Châteauneuf du Pape and they'll come up, and you will note that they are rather pricey. And Châteauneuf du Pape is rather pricey.
Worth every penny. I have to interject here.
But not all the Rhône is. And it's kind of frustrating for us that people recognize the word Châteauneuf du Pape, but maybe not some of the smaller appellations.
So
you're going to ask me a question.
I will. So Châteauneuf du Pape, we're not drinking Châteauneuf du Pape here, but we just need to make this little point.
Yeah.
Châteauneuf du Pape is a village. It's the name of a village, just like, for example, Ashted, which is
Epsom.
Or Epsom is a town, smaller than Epsom.
Yeah.
It's the name of a village, and it is also an appellation.
Yeah.
And I put to Pam, in a nutshell, make it quick.
Okay.
Tell the people what is an appellation and what is all this about.
Can I have a map?
Okay, here we go.
Can I have a map? I'm going to have a map. So we're going to show you a map, everybody. And that...
Hang on, it's not there yet.
Just so as you know, anybody who doesn't know... Now we're testing your I nearly said geology, I mean geography. That is France.
Yes, indeed, along with some other images. I'll get better at sharing images one day.
So all of the sort of coloured areas are designated wine regions across France. And the area that we're going to be talking about is down there in the bottom right-hand corner in the sort of like lilac pinky area. But the question is, what is an appellation? So if you think of France, France is the second biggest wine producer in terms of volume in the world. It is immense, absolutely immense. And in actual fact, if we think just about the Rhône area, they produce 500 million bottles every year. And give you some context to that, England is 16 million. Which is not bad, actually, for England. But,
not bad. New Zealand is 400 million.
Yeah.
It's similar to the volume produced in New Zealand.
Yeah. And it's second biggest. It's only second to Bordeaux, which is the biggest producing area in France, which is the green bit. But what is an appellation? So an appellation is a designated area which has actually got restrictions in it, depending on, and it's a qualitative regulation, put it that way. So it could be down to a tiny little village like Châteauneuf du Pape, which has its own appellation. And there they state how many grapes can be grown, the alcohol limits, the number of vines in a certain sort of area, in a hectare or an acre or whatever. Can they be irrigated?
The number of grapes on the vine,
the alcohol levels, all sorts of restrictions. And once a winery or a producer says, right, okay, I want to follow that regulation, if he achieves everything that the appellation sets out, then he is permitted to put an AOC, Appellation Contrôlée, on his label. And it is a sign of quality. It's a sign that he's basically following the rules and the regulations as set out by, the mayor or whatever. Let's not talk about mayors.
No, let's not go.
But it is kind of, it's a qualitative angle that says it's keeping the quality of the wines at a certain level. So another example of an appellation would be, Chablis. Chablis has its own appellation.
So Burgundy as a region is the red part on the map, right?
The skinny bit.
Within a region, there will be appellations.
Correct.
So within the Loire, for example, which is the cream scattered area on the west there.
But the one of the best ones known would be Sancerre.
It's a village and it's an appellation. So you basically, what we're saying is the rules are there so that when you go to buy a Sancerre, you sort of know what you're going to get. You know
that there are some sort of regulations as to what the producer is permitted to do, what's happening in the vineyard, and so there's some sort of quality angle there.
Bit of quality control.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well, that's always good in the wine industry. It doesn't happen everywhere, but certainly in Europe, they've made a big thing of it. Yeah. And it's good. It's a good thing. Yeah. It's a good thing. So I'm just gonna bring it back to the Rhône for a moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the map quickly. The Rhône is the pink area, bottom right-ish. Yeah. And then if we drilled into the Rhône,
drill.
This here is that pink bit sort of close up, if you like.
Yeah.
So these different coloured patches are all different appellations within the Rhône.
Yeah. So if we take the very, very far northern bit.
Yeah, let me zoom into that. This is apologies, nice. Technical. Yeah. Right, this bit here is the northern bit.
Yeah. So it kind of starts just sort of south of Lyon, give you an idea, of Vienne.
Vienne on the right.
And then it stretches all the way down the Blue River, which is the Rhône, all the way down to, almost sort of past Avignon, and then it goes into Marseille. Yeah,
there we go. That's
there's Avignon. Rhône. Okay. So on the banks of the Rhône are the Côte du Rhône, as in the sides of the Rhône. And that is the basic appellation, Côte du Rhône. And that's where the grapes are grown on the lower, not even slopes really, just literally the banks on sort of like kind of an alluvial soil. So that is the base quality that you're going to get, a Côte du Rhône. And then it goes up from there. So the next level up will be
your Côte du Rhône Village, which is what we are drinking right now. So the Georges Dariot wine, which we've got, is the Côte du Rhône Village, which is one step up. This is a slightly more premium quality Côte du Rhône.
It's a premium quality Côte du Rhône.
It's chosen on select sort of bits of vineyard where they've got the right soil, the right outlook, the right aspect, and the better quality fruit.
Yeah, exactly. And then their restrictions a little bit more sort of like controlled. So the further up you go, the next level up will be.
So it's Côte du Rhône Village, but with a named village. So they'll specify a specific village or plot, being a bit more, I'll say specific again, because it's reflective of the soils and then that outlook that it's got. And then stepped up once more are the crus. And these are the very, very famous, we're not going to name any right now, but the very, very famous Rhône villages or appellations. And I'm going to ask you about them in a minute. So, by the way, a few more hellos.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
We're talking about Rhône this evening.
We're talking about the Rhône, and I'm just going to wind it back a bit and just give a little bit of a history.
Yeah, go. Here we go.
History in a nutshell, which is my kind of history, to be fair. So, like most areas of the world, the ancient Greeks got there first and planted their vines. Got to be self-sufficient in this world, and that involves wine as much as anything. So you're looking at 600, 400 BC, around then, the ancient Greeks were there, banged in a load of vines, and were jollily drinking probably god-awful wine at that point, but it was doing the job.
And then we all know what happened after that. Well, the Greeks buggered off and the Romans
arrived. Well, too, this is, again, in every wine region pretty much in the world, this is what happens. And the Romans sort of refined it a little bit. And actually, where the Romans looked to plant is now an area of the Rhône Valley, which is considered to be one of the top appellations. So it was up by Vienne, up in the north there, and the appellation that has now been defined where they planted is Côte Rôtie, which you may or may not have heard of, but you can pay 50 quid for a bottle if it's plonk, or you could pay 1,000 for the top stuff. So it's, it's high end.
Yeah. So just going back to that map, if we can just go back to the map very briefly in actual fact. So I love a map. So the area from the north.
Oh, hang on, that's not showing the right bit. Let's get the north bit.
Here we go. It doesn't really matter. So the area from the north to the south of the Rhône stretches about 125 miles. And simply put, it's split northern Rhône and southern Rhône. And you can see that the northern Rhône is much, much smaller than the southern Rhône. The northern Rhône is where Côte Rôtie comes from.
Very, very top of the north there, yeah.
Hermitage.
No, I didn't say too many more.
Sorry.
We need to test these people, make sure they're paying attention.
But you will probably notice in our portfolio, we don't have any northern Rhones. And there's a very good reason for that, is because they are colossally expensive. And when I say colossally, my eyes water, Finn's eyes water. We could talk about £600 a bottle for some of the top northern Rhône. It is colossal. And those wines, they need sort of 10 to 15 years before they're ready in bottles. So, is Hannibal Brown an advocate of Northern Rhône? Of course we are. But, we need
wines that you can pull the cork out of, pour and enjoy, like this lovely Georges Darrieux Côte d'Rhône village.
Which takes us further south,
indeed,
where it's a little bit more or less eye-watering.
But I'm going to zoom back to my history lesson because I'm not quite finished on the history.
Yeah, go for it.
So Romans came, planted, had a very good mind and eye for where would be good for growing vines. And then basically history stops a bit for the Rhône Valley from a wine perspective until 1309.
Yeah, went to rack and ruin.
Just became, just nothingness. But then in 1309, a very, very famous chap went and moved his residence there.
We've got a question coming up here, everybody. Pay attention.
So the Pope set up home in Avignon, down in the south of the Rhône Valley there. And that suddenly put the spotlight back on the Rhône, which was excellent for them as a place that had then been rack and ruin and the wines were not really anything of note. And a particular appellation was named after this sort of house move. And I'm going to ask you a starter for 10. What do you reckon? What was the appellation which is named after the Pope's move to Avignon?
Okay, answer on the postcard. I'm waiting.
Pop it in the comments as usual. It's still a very famous appellation.
And whilst you're thinking about that, I just want to pop in that actually a very famous chap called Hannibal, he crossed the Rhône.
Okay, so very relevant.
Hannibal, the famous Carthaginian warrior, he came all the way with his 100,000 troops, all the way up from southern Spain and northern Africa to invade Italy, the Romans, and he passed straight over the Rhône River with his elephants.
Well, I hope he stopped for a glass.
But the question was, how did the elephants get over the river? I put it to you, Nettie Peacock. How did the elephants get over the river?
Elephant pyramid, perhaps.
And how many elephants did he have? He started with about, I don't know, what was it? 780,000 troops or something.
Oh, I was going to say elephant.
And he only ended up with about 40,000 by the time he got to the Rhône. But bear in mind,
not the best warrior,
the Rhône is this huge river. And there were no crossings other than one crossing that was built. Anybody know which crossing that was? That's a very good question.
I'm still waiting to know what the name of Luke might be on the right lines.
Have we got it?
He might be on the right lines. So there is a lot of history, needless to say.
Answers.
Don't worry, I'm on it.
Okay.
There is a lot of history. So it's very important to look at the history of each of these regions, but you do inevitably find it was the Greeks, it was the Romans, it was the Phoenicians, and then the Spanish and Portuguese got involved, and France ends up with it all in one packet, I think. So,
can we talk about Syrah?
Sur le pont d'Avignon.
Well done, yeah. Avignon, sur le pont d'Avignon was the only bridge that crossed the Rhône between Lyon, way up in the north, further up north of Vienne, and Marseille. And there it is. There it is. And anybody who's been down to Avignon will know that actually it doesn't go across the entirety of the river because, well, the bloody thing kept falling down because it was a tiny, tiny little bridge. And the rumour suggests that everybody danced on the Pont d'Avignon, sur le Pont d'Avignon, on y danse, but they couldn't because it was only 4 meters wide. And apparently they set up an inn underneath, and that's where it suggested that they actually danced.
See, Pam seems to think that the Sur le Pont d'Avignon, and clearly Luke does as well, is, you know, a really well-known tune that you will learn at school.
Sur le Pont d'Avignon, on y danse, sur le Pont d'Avignon, on y danse tous ensemble. We all did it. Surely we all did it.
I don't
Luke,
know.
I'm with you.
I'd like to know who else out there. I mean, we did Frère Jacques, and that was about it, I think, in French. But then again, you know, it's all down to where you went to school, I suppose. So history in a nutshell, yeah? That was history in a nutshell.
Yeah. Have we done it yet? Actually,
Yeah.
No. Did we establish how the elephants got over the river yet?
No, but you know, elephants. They love
That's
water.
down to Nettie Peacock because she said it yet. Don't know. Anyway, we'll come back to that one.
Well, so I want to go on to the Rhône Valley a little bit.
Let's talk about wine.
But I know that at least 1 or 2 people have got the canapes. So with the Dario Côte de Rhône Village, which is lovely and fruity and soft, but with a little bit of kind of herbiness to it, I suggested the spiced pork quesadillas. And I wonder if any of you have had a go because they are absolutely delicious. And with a little salsa and sour cream, I think it's just a perfect combination. So I'll be interested to know who's tasting it, what you think about the combination. Send us a photo. Always happy to see them. I want to know if you did a better job of me at cutting them into triangles without the filling splurging out. Very tricky.
And I think we were just talking about this, actually, the importance of drinking good wine and eating good food, particularly at the moment, because, you know, if you're a dirty Londoner like we are and you're in tier 2, you're not allowed to go out and well, see anybody really.
Not inside, not allowed to go in.
So do have a look at our website because there are so many different sort of recipes on there. And if you've got anything that you want to add, then we'll happily add them on. But equally, any critique, either good or bad, is very, very welcome. And this leads me on to a little bit of news that we are having a Christmas wine tasting.
Virtually, but more personally.
So hang on in there because we've got a date. It's in December. It's going to be via Zoom. So it will be all interactive. We will invite everybody, yourselves, everybody on our sort of database. And shall I tell them what date it is?
Yeah. Do you remember?
Yeah. It's Wednesday, the 9th of December. It's at 6 o'clock. It's going to be for about an hour and a half. We're going to send you the wines out ahead of the event, and you're all going to Zoom in, and we're going to have a nice jolly time. And there's going to be food incorporated as well. Yeah,
about time. I love the fact that Luke suggested that actually you can go inside if it's a business meeting. So perhaps if we, you know, had our annual conference and got everyone along, we could sort of justify an indoor event. But hey, I don't want to be responsible for that spread of nastiness. Rhône. Back in the Rhône. So I actually a few more little facts.
Yes.
Okay, so we've always said the Rhône Valley is huge. You know, there's the second largest producing area region in France, second to Bordeaux. So it's big. It's mostly red, it has to be said. It's about 80% red, 15% rosé, and 5% white as the whole region,
which is a problem.
Which is a problem. So actually, when you look at the world rosé consumption as a sort of ratio, if you look at white to red, it's 1 to 2. So twice the amount of red wine to the white.
Third,
well, twice the amount of red wine as white. But in the Rhône, they're actually producing far more red wine, you know, 1 to 10 times the amount of red wine. So they are having a little look at trying to modernize their approach. Also, with the thought too that pink revolution that's been happening as we've all been watching it and basically getting involved as well, let's face it.
I think it's a question of watch this space, because there's going to be an awful lot more white wine that is going to be permissible to be produced in the Rhône Valley.
It's true. And although wintertime is a time for, giving yourself a big hug with a large glass of red wine, the white wines from the Rhône are phenomenally good.
Yeah.
So worth a shot.
Yeah. Can I talk about Syrah?
Oh, go on then.
Right. So the Côte de Rhône from Georges Darrieux that we're drinking at the moment is predominantly Grenache and Syrah. Now, Syrah has another name that everybody's probably aware of. If you're not now, then you haven't been paying attention. It's Shiraz. But the question has always been, where has this come from? And why is it called Shiraz in some places? And why is it called Syrah in others? And it is predominantly called Syrah in the Rhône. And it's always been suggested that it comes from the Rhône Valley. But there is a suggestion also that it was brought in from by the Greeks from
somewhere in Greece,
Persia. Oh, yes, the town of Shiraz. That's right. Sorry about that. The town of Shiraz, which kind of makes sense.
Let's just top up your glass.
But then there's another suggestion that it came from Sicily, from a town called Syracuse. Now, I've been to Syracuse, don't know about Shiraz. But the ultimate conclusion is that actually it was born and bred in the Rhône Valley. So anybody who says otherwise, they are wrong. Syrah or Shiraz, whatever you want to call it, its home is in the Rhône, and it always has been. Yeah.
Dan, that is that.
Yeah.
That is that.
So the other thing is there's a lot of grape varieties permitted in the Rhône Valley. Some of those that you will recognize will be Syrah or Shiraz, Grenache, Carignan, Mourvèdre, and a whole host of others. But the interesting thing is that there's an awful lot of white grape varieties as well. And they are permitted to put the white grape varieties in the red, a lot. So it is not unusual to find maybe 10, 15, even 20% of white grape varieties in a red Rhône. There, that's my point. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, so it's got to be said that the Northern Rhône and the Southern Rhône are like two totally different areas. Okay, in the north, there's only one red grape allowed to be planted. In the south,
Syrah.
Okay, and then that is the answer to question 2.
Oh, sorry.
Don't worry, there's more. And in the south, there's a whole range of red grapes allowed to be planted. The difference, I suppose, is in the north, winemakers plant just that one grape variety on all sorts of different aspects and soils, and then blend them together to make the finished product. Whereas in the south, they have all different grape varieties planted on probably a less varied number of different soils and aspects, and then they blend the grape varieties together. So it really does depend where your wine's coming from as to the finished product. So if you just love Rhône wines, well, that's wonderful, but they can vary massively. So the beauty is like drilling down into each individual little area and actually produce it, because it's down to the person who's blending and producing the wine at the end of the day as to the quality you're getting at the end, and growing the grapes, of course.
It is. And I mean, the interesting thing about the Rhône Valley is that from north to south, the temperature, the climate is dramatic. So anybody who's driven down to the south of France will know that you leave London or wherever you are, you get to Dover and you go over to Calais, and then you go via Champagne, and then you drop straight down through Burgundy, you get to Lyon, and then you keep going and you drive all the way along the Rhône Valley, and people who've done it will recognize it. It's a massive great river. And the further south you go, the temperature is so obviously gets warmer and warmer and warmer and warmer. And as you go past Valence, which is sort of considered to be the southern bit of France, this is when it really starts getting almost, like a desert. So the challenges down there are rain. It really doesn't rain an awful lot, although having said that, they have had a huge amount of rain this year, and they do have sort of like tropical rainstorms. That's climate change for you. Ridiculously high temperatures. And what that does is it promotes ripeness in the grape variety, in the grapes. So as the grapes continue to mature and mature and mature, there's more and more and more sugar that's actually generated as a result of these high temperatures. And that can convert into very high alcohol. And one of my stories that when I used to work down there was going to see a winery and they were in the middle of their fermentation. In fact, they finished the fermentation, and the poor winemaker had ended up with these wines that were north of 17.5% alcohol. So he had all this wine, it was great wine, but it was 17.5% alcohol.
Punchy.
So we stood there, me and the consultant and the winemaker, going, oops, what are we going to do about that? Because you can't sell a 17.5%. There's port, you just cannot do it.
Well, and this
but you have to pay a lot more tax on that alcohol. It's also not permitted to dilute, so you can't add water. So what do you do?
I mean,
so what do you think he did, Jim?
Well, I mean, you wouldn't save it for personal consumption because, again, we're talking presumably thousands of litres of the stuff.
You can't throw it down the sink.
Can't throw it away.
But the appellation stated that they cannot dilute and they cannot sell 17.5% alcohol. So what did he do?
What would you do?
What would you do?
Probably what he did.
He added water.
Naughty.
Because there is nothing else to do. Everybody turns a blind eye and goes, move on.
Very naughty.
What can you do? That's the climate change. That is the climate change.
Well,
that is one of the big challenges. And, you know, well, nobody advocates adding water, but, you know.
It's actually on that climate change note, in the southern Rhône there, they also grow a bit of a few white grapes and make a bit of white wine, Chateauneuf du Pape Blanc, which is absolutely fantastic. But they are finding that the grape varieties, which are really classic Rhône varieties, white grapes are Grenache Blanc, Clairette, Roussanne, Marsanne, Viognier. These not so well suited to that really hot, weather. So actually, they're bringing in grapes like Vermentino and Picpoul, which you're probably all aware of from down in the Languedoc, which are still permissible varieties because they're quite flexible down in the south as to which grapes you can grow. But they're a bit more hardy to that hot weather and have a slightly higher acidity. That means you don't end up with a big sweet sort of, I don't know, jammy kind of affair at the end.
Yeah.
So they're having to adapt to it.
It is true to say, though. Sorry,
Alice was just wondering what the 17.5% tasted like.
Port.
Yeah, I'm sure it was absolutely delicious.
It would taste like port, and it would,
yeah, I mean, give you a right old headache in the morning. In fact, talking about those alcohol levels, down in the south, they do tend to generally be a slightly higher alcohol. So the two Chateauneuf du Papes that we've recently brought in, the red is 15% and the white, I think, is 14.5%. They're quite big, but phenomenally good. And when you get some food with them, just mind-blowing.
It's interesting for any bread makers, any budding bread makers out there, because it's all about the yeast in 2020. I know that. But in wine terms, you can use yeasts that are more tolerant to higher alcohols and less tolerant to lower alcohol. So if they are getting sort of 15% alcohol in their wines, then they've got a very, very tolerant yeast that keeps eating, keeps nourishing, boom, 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 and it gets to those levels. But some yeasts won't allow the fermentation to go that high. Arguably, you'd say, "Oh, does it need to be that high?" Well, alcohol is all about wine is all about balance, and if you've got good balance of alcohol, be it 12% or 15%, so long as it's balanced with the fruit in the wine and the tannins and the acidity, then it really doesn't matter what level of alcohol it is, other than don't drive a car.
And maybe just have something to eat with it. Which means we need to move on actually to the Le Pigeoulet, the Vaucluse wine. So actually, if we get the map up again, maybe you would like to just let everyone know where Vaucluse is. I might zoom in on it for you.
Okay.
If I can do that without causing too much.
Okay.
So Southern Rhône.
Okay, so you've got all those different coloured bits that Jude was talking about, which are all different appellations, designated appellations. And then you've got that great, big, enormous green bit, which is the Vaucluse, and it is the workhorse of the Southern Rhône, with the Luberon area just in the sort of slightly grey bit in the bottom. Now, these areas are, it's arguable, is it Rhône or is it Provence? It's the weather of Provence, it's the beauty of Provence. The soils are incredibly limestone. It's incredibly. I was thinking. I always think of my favorite film, Jean de Florette. Anybody's seen Jean de Florette? That's the scenery that we're talking about. It's rough. It's rustic. It's incredibly herbaceous. So you tend to get this herbaceousness in the wines. And now I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oh yes. So the Pigelet comes from an area called Queyranne, which is just east of that place that I'm not allowed to mention because the question's not been answered.
No,
yet.
I think we have had the answer really. So
did we?
Yeah, so it is just east of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, which is the purple blob.
So that's where the Pope went.
That is where, the Châteauneuf-du-Pape is the new house of the Pope.
Newcastle. It's Newcastle.
Newcastle of the Pope.
I love it. Newcastle.
So both these two wines are basically on the border of Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
Yeah. So Le Pigelet comes from an area just outside of Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and that is of real benefit to you and us because the prices of land and grape production in Châteauneuf-du-Pape are, as I said, eye-watering. So if you look at our Châteauneufs, you'll see that they are north of 30 quid. Le Pigelet is essentially Châteauneuf-du-Pape, but not designated quite in the same region, but for all intents and purposes, a similar land mass. But a hell of a lot cheaper.
$16.99 a bottle.
Yeah.
Whereas, £30 upwards really for a decent Châteauneuf-du-Pape.
So it's not the cheapest wine, and it never will be. Once you go beyond the Côte de Rhône appellation, the prices in Rhône do tend to go up and up and up and up and up. But what you get is, you get a bang for your buck because you've got an awful lot of concentration in these wines. And I definitely tell people if they're not eating something, eat something soon because these wines are crying out for food.
And speaking of food, okay, so the canapé which I suggested and put together for this little chappie were the feta and olive tartlets. I wonder if anyone has actually put them together because I think it's a perfect combination. Olive is quite a difficult thing to pair wine with, but when it's with the saltiness of the feta and a nice rich kind of, pastry and a little bit of an eggy, cheesy filling, works really well with the sort of savouriness of this wine.
You're going to remember that in the Rhône, definitely in the southern Rhône Valley, there's a huge amount of olive growing down there. There's olive groves everywhere, and most wineries are picking olives at the same time as picking grapes, albeit the olives take a little bit longer to turn into something edible.
Well, then you have to soak them and all sorts, don't you?
But and now I forgot what I was going to say again.
What a wonderful combination it is with the tartlet.
Oh, so yeah. So, but olives, they've got this incredible, really sort of concentrated flavor. And it's similar with the red wines that they have this concentration. Even the white wines have this concentration. Also to say that the people in the Rhône, bear in mind that it's incredibly hot there in the summer. My experience of the majority of people in the Rhône, they're quite happy to put ice cubes in their red wine. It sounds awful, but when it's 40 degrees out there, we've all done it, and you haven't got your wines in the fridge or whatever, and they're too warm, then it's just the normal way of drinking Côte de Rhône.
But I'd say we're drinking this at about 19 degrees, 18, 19 degrees, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't want it any warmer.
Yeah, I think we always talk about this ambient temperature, and people question what ambient temperature is. Well, in wine terms, you probably want to drink this wine at no more than 17 to 19 degrees. 17 degrees would probably be optimum. So it's not your indoor ambient temperature, because your indoor ambient temperature is probably more like 20, 22 degrees.
If you've got a good heating system. Yeah, exactly. Embarrassing.
So yeah, arguably these could go in the fridge for a little bit. Actually, they're perfect.
No, it's perfect. I think. There's a fun fact for you from Luke.
Oh yeah,
and he said there's an Indian film based on Jean de Florette. And we're going to find it and watch it, Luke. Love that.
I look forward to it.
Maybe we'll watch it with a glass of Sula, Indian Viognier or Shiraz.
Oh, I look forward to it. Ooh, how interesting. Okay.
So Le Pigelet, yeah, lovely. Vaucluse, an interesting region that if people like Châteauneuf-du-Pape saves you a bunch of money and is fantastic. There's some other really brilliant Southern Rhône regions which will give you a quality like Châteauneuf-du-Pape, but not also quite the price tag, right?
Yes.
So some more of Châteauneuf-du-Pape's neighbours. So let's ones to look out for, just if you're in the mood for trying things out a wee bit. So here we are. On the right hand side are your they're the northern ones. Here we go. Here we go. So you've got your Gigondas, Vacaras. Those two offer really good value for money. And fantastic wines, and all very similar in this lovely warm climate that gives you ripeness. Generally in the Southern Rhône, you'll get wines you can open and drink younger.
Yeah, and they're generally a little bit more Grenache. And Grenache is a lighter grape that you can put your ice cube in or chill it, because it has this fruit content. And anybody who's opened both of these bottles will realize that the Côte de Rhône is probably showing a little bit more fruit, as opposed to the Pigelet, which is a little bit more structured and like crying out for wine, for food. But that's what I love about that Côte de Rhône Village d'Arieux, because it's the Grenache is just like it's got this sort of like sweet fruit to it. Lovely.
Yeah, so really easy drinking. It's like 1 year older, so softer, but actually that doesn't really matter, I don't think.
No.
I'd be really interested to know if anybody has got a favorite Rhône appellation, up in the north there, the wines that are really, top notch are from places like Hermitage, Creux Hermitage, Saint-Joseph.
Gigondas.
South.
Yeah.
But, it'd be interesting to know, just before we wrap up, it'd be interesting to know if people are into their Northern Rhône wines, and are you patient enough to wait for them? Because you really do have to give them time.
Yeah.
It's a bit like Chianti in that sense. Chianti Classico, absolutely delicious, but drink it too young and it's just too acidic, it's too sharp, it's too tannic.
Throwing your wine down the toilets, that's what I think.
Yeah, but there's no need for that. No need for that at all these days. It's, in the days of lockdown, you need to hold on to all your supplies just in case. So
can I just?
Oh yeah, go on.
Okay. So we called this the Rhône Rangers this evening, but in actual fact, because we're all Rhône Rangers, we're ranging around the Rhône at the end of the day. But Rhône Rangers, that name was actually a movement in California who suddenly hit upon the idea of growing Rhône grape varietals in California, and they've done really well as a result of it, actually. And there are some fantastic Rhône varietal wines in California. Again, quite expensive, but really good. But we've got something infinitely as good from another hemisphere, which is, everybody's familiar with the Simon Hackett Old Vine Grenache. Well, we've just brought in his Shiraz. The reason we brought in his Shiraz is because he's run out of Grenache.
Yeah,
we're not going to get the Grenache for a while.
Grenache is no more, and the Grenache was so phenomenally good. Another Southern Rhône variety, but moving up into the Northern Rhône. Watch this space for the Shiraz going live on the website.
Yeah,
absolutely stunning.
Yeah, if you compare it to the Le Pigelet, then the Pigelet is more sort of rustic, more sort of Jean de Florette, as opposed to the Australian Hillview Shiraz, which is going down that sort of fruit, big bomb
fruit,
big bomb Australian McLaren Vale Shiraz fruit.
Big, lovely, ripe, not going to absolutely knock your socks off, but still punching its weight at 14%.
Yeah,
and a really stunning wine.
Yeah.
So just to recap a little bit of what's coming up on the old Hannibal Brown live front, in 2 weeks' time, or let's say just under 2 weeks, on Wednesday the 4th, is our Ooh La La c'est Cabernet.
Ooh la la! That's a charity event.
Which is very much raising awareness for Race Against Dementia, which is a fantastic charity.
And let's face it, we're all racing against dementia.
Well, potentially. Well, let's hope that the organisation who are researching it get there first. It's a charity that was founded by Sir Jackie Stewart of Formula One fame. And they're looking at using wonderful Formula One technology at sort of beefing up the research into dementia and really trying to find a prevention or cure. So a fantastic reason to drink lots of lovely Cabernet and tune in again on a week on Wednesday.
Yeah, we've got a nice Bordeaux Cabernet, really lovely, smooth Bordeaux Cabernet Merlot. Actually, a little bit more emphasis on the Merlot because it's right bank. And a lovely representative Cabernet from Chile. Anybody who knows Casas del Bosque, it's going to be that one.
One of our favourites. We met the winemaker in one of our live tastings over the summer.
Yeah.
If you were here, you remember that we were sat in a campsite on the Isle of Wight. Those were the days.
Oh, God, yeah. A little bit of a shout out for anybody who's interested in DIY tasting kits. There's plenty. We are in a kind of like semi-lockdown. These DIY tasting kits have been going a storm. There's plenty on the website. Just log on to hannibalbrown.com and have a quick check. There's a theme for everybody, and also our virtual wine tastings for friends, family, and colleagues. I think the biggest one we're about to do is for 90 people. They are phenomenally successful. Again, look on the website for details.
Yeah, so it's lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been fab.
Did we have any questions that we didn't answer?
I think we've answered them all. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you've enjoyed the wines. I hope you cooked up the canapes. The recipes for the Cabernets will be there by Tuesday. I promise. I'm just coming up with the best combinations. These things don't just happen. They need to be invented and practiced and tried at least once. But any suggestions, if you've got a really great Cabernet Canapé combination, send them over. More than happy to give it a go.
Did we establish how the elephants got over the Rhône Valley, over the Rhône River?
No, I thought they clambered over each other, didn't they?
They swam.
Okay. Pam is a bit of an elephant fan.
I love elephants.
You haven't realized.
Can you see the elephant in the background?
Oh, Luke, you like the canapé video? I wasn't on my best form actually. I was suddenly like, oh gosh, we should film this. Oh, I haven't done my hair. Didn't even have my Fanny Craddock outfit on. So maybe I'll get the fancy dress going for the next one. Watch this space.
Okay, right. That's it, guys. It's a wrap. Lovely to see you everyone. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Finn would say goodbye, but he's Finn.
Sparko. Finn, say bye.
There he is. Okay, guys. Thank you.
2 weeks' time for Ooh La La.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.